Hey guys, welcome to the 716 Sports Entertainment Podcast, Super Bowl edition. We got two teams, not the ones we wanted, but the New England Patriots and Sean's Seattle Sea Chickens are in fact going to the Super Bowl. And we wanted to use this opportunity to take a look back at the playoffs, talk about the big game, talk about some of the mishaps by not only the Bills, but some of the other teams that we saw as well, and kind of just take a look back as to how we got here. So, Sean, since you are our resident Seattle Sea Chickens fan, I will let you go first. So, how are you feeling?
I would have been much happier if this was the Bills in Seattle in this in the Super Bowl. Then I would have been happy either way with a winner. But at this point, I'm firmly expecting that. Like, I don't know what the opening line is, but I'm
I think it's
firmly
3.5
expecting
for Seattle.
that's it. Because I'm
Yeah.
expecting Seattle to come out and put a beating on New England with the way they've looked. Like this New England team is probably the weakest team to make the Super Bowl that I've seen in a long time. Like, just as far as how they look, how they got there. And I know, like, all the New England fans right now, sorry, New England fans, but I'm calling you out, are saying, oh, well, we beat a top five defense and a top three defense. And yeah, you did, but you barely did. Like, half of these teams, if they would have made a player too smarter, would have been fine. Like the Chargers, if they could have scored more than 3 points, or if CJ Stroud wasn't doing everything in his power to throw away the game. Like they play a competent team. I'm I am firmly of the belief the Bills would have beat them.
Yeah. So I guess let's start with the Patriots first and and how they got there, right? Like there's been so much said about their schedule, their this year, right? How they won whatever they won, 13 games or something like that. What did they go, 13 and 4 or 14 and 3 or something like that? And they only beat two teams over 500 the whole way, you know? So yeah, there's definitely something to be said for strength of schedule. And, with that being said, though, they did something that the Bills didn't do, and they took care of business, right? Even
Yeah,
against the bad teams. And the Bills didn't do that. So, the Bills would have been in that spot had they beaten Atlanta, had they beaten Miami, had they, actually played intelligently against the Eagles, right? I mean, not only that, but the Bills also had the ball in their quarterback's hand with less than a minute left to win the game in both the Patriots game and the Texans game, you know? So I don't know. I mean, that very easily, to your point, could have been the Bills spot. I think looking at the playoffs, I think the one thing that doesn't get talked about a lot with them is how well their defense is playing.
that's who's carrying them.
Their defense is, you're absolutely right. I mean, the stats don't lie. I mean, Drake May, across all three games, has not thrown for 500 passing yards.
Nope.
I mean, bad QBR. He's been sacked a dozen times, multiple turnovers in every single game. So the offense has not carried them at all. But I mean, he's made plays when he needed to. But the story for the Patriots is their defense. It is absolutely their defense. And if they find a way to beat Seattle in 2 weeks, it will be because of their defense.
Yeah, but the one thing they have said Seattle has that Seattle's got a real good defense and Seattle has an offense that can score. And I don't think that the New England defense has run into a single offense that can put up numbers like Seattle can in these playoffs. They went up against a injured and incompetent Justin Herbert, whose offensive line was trying to get him killed. They went up against CJ Stroud, who over the course of two games had 11 turnovers. I mean, the Texans really, if they would have played a competent team in week one, wouldn't have made it to face the Patriots. And they played a backup quarterback in the AFC Championship game, and they still only they put up 10 points. Like, I'm sorry, it's I get it that their defense is good, but I don't think it's like all-star, you know what I mean? I just think that they've had the luck of not having to face anything really top tier.
What about
And
the
Drake
weather
May, real quick, a
yesterday as
real quick
well?
point too.
Yeah, yeah.
Drake May, you said that he made plays when he had to. He ran for a touchdown yesterday that had one of the most blatant holds that they didn't call on it in this entire playoff. So Drake May is incredibly overrated.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I'm, and don't get me wrong, I'm pissed, dude, that he got there and that Darnold got there before Josh did. Like, I'm pissed about that. I think that this year, looking back on it, is a missed opportunity for the
Oh
Bills.
yeah.
And the more I think about it, and the more I look at who is in the Super Bowl right now, the more I am pissed at everybody in charge over at One Bills Drive, right?
So
Like, you know what? Let me finish this point though.
yeah.
McDermott needed to go. I think McDermott needed to go after 13 seconds at this point. That being said, I don't agree with the way they did it, but I still think he needed to go. However, I also am of the mind that Bean needs to go and needed to go as well, because I don't think you can convince me right now that you had that Houston game, you had that Eagles game, and those two wins, had you won those two games, they would have gotten you the 2 seed instead of the Patriots. You cannot convince me that if you had Jalen Waddle on your team, he would not have been the difference enough to make one catch in either one of those games, or the three different times in the playoffs where it was either Brandon Cooks or Knox or Mecole Hardman who dropped a ball that was right to him that would have allowed the Bills to win the game, right? Because there was a point in time in that Broncos game where it was 24-23 and the Bills were driving, and they instead kicked a field goal to make it 27-23 when they absolutely could have scored a touchdown there had Knox caught that ball and Josh not. Josh did overthrow it a little bit, and then Hardman had a really bad drop as well. But you're throwing to Dawson Knox and Mecole Hardman. You mean to tell me if Jalen Waddle is not on your team, like he doesn't make that catch, or he just demands the coverage so somebody else is open? Like, and that's the part that bothers me about all of this. And I place a lot of the blame on the general manager. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous if what they said about how Miami wanted this year's first instead of next year's first, and you weren't willing to part with that because you'd be in the Super Bowl right now. I mean, let's be honest. You would have beaten the Patriots. You would have you would have beaten the Broncos for sure. You practically did beat the Broncos. You had an opportunity with the ball in overtime. Even after four turnovers, you still had the ball in overtime. So I'm pissed about that. And I really think, I know he read everybody the riot act, but that was a power play. And I don't know what this dude's got on Pagula at all, but I don't trust him at all to rebuild this organization and to put a proper coach in place. And from everything I'm seeing, they're going to go defense, which is insane to me. Sorry, that was kind of a long-winded rant, but please go ahead and correct me on anything I might have misstated there.
So before getting into any of that, I want to say that I think it's absolutely hysterical that Sam Darnold is representing the class of 2018 before Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, or Lamar Jackson.
Or Lamar Jackson.
Absolutely hysterical. Absolutely hysterical. So not just the Bills
Sam
fans
Darnold on
who
his
should be
fourth
pissed off
team.
about
On
this.
his fourth team.
Oh, if you're the Vikings, what do you think about this? You know what I mean? Who
Or
let
the
him walk
Jets.
after going, the Jets were the
The
Jets,
Jets are the
but the
Jets, but yeah.
the Vikings who let him go after 14 wins.
Hmm.
And he goes to the Super Bowl the next year. If I'm the
And
Vikings,
you
I'm kicking
and you have
myself.
JJ McCarthy who got you what, six? I mean, I know they had eight, but he didn't play for all the games. So I think
Exactly.
JJ McCarthy won them six games.
Um, but in regards to your point on Brandon Bean, the way I'm looking at it, so as not to have an anger management issue, is that this is a case of following the path that most before a GM gets fired, usually the coach gets fired.
Hmm.
So I'm just taking it as that this was McDermott being let go and Bean is the next one on the hot seat. If they pick, God forbid, another defensive coach next year and they come out and they suck, he has to be gone. Like, I'm sorry, but has to be gone. And I don't know what the deal is with why they're so obsessed with draft picks. I don't know if there's more to it than that. And like, we don't necessarily know the full story of the Jalen Waddle thing. There may have been more to it than just the draft pick. You know what I mean? But I think that this is put up or shut up time, especially now for Brandon Bean. And given what we've seen in the 2025/2026 Super Bowl run by all of these different teams, there's no excuse for him to fail next year. And there's no excuse for this team to fail next year.
I don't know. I don't have any confidence that I think anything is going to be any different, right? Like, let's real talk here for a second. Like, I don't think the Bills are going to wait long enough to get Clint Kubiak, right? Like, do you really think they're going to wait 2 full weeks before they hire their coach? I don't, right? And
I mean, they
so,
can talk to him.
no, they can't. They can't talk to him until after the
I thought
Super
they
Bowl.
could.
No, no, they
How
can't
was
talk to him
Brady?
until after the Super Bowl.
How was Brady
So,
interviewing then before, well, the playoffs were still going on?
because the rule is you are allowed to interview with teams if you've already interviewed with them, but you are not allowed to interview with teams if you haven't interviewed with them already, if you're still in the postseason. So, like, Brady was able to go and talk to the Raiders, and other people were able to go and talk to certain teams because they weren't in the postseason.
Gotcha.
So it's like a weird loophole kind of rule, but they explained it on GR today. I think Sal or somebody was talking about it. So, um, yeah,
So
but
speaking of coaching candidates, real quick, what did Paulie say about Rivers? Why is he not in the picture anymore?
I don't really think that that was serious, truthfully. Uh, Paulie, one of the guys, everybody in our audience here knows Paulie. He does our videos with us. Phil Rivers came and was attempting to be interviewed by the Bills as well, and that didn't obviously work out. He's coaching high school, I think, and I don't know why they interviewed him, maybe as like a courtesy or something like that, but I think he just
Yeah.
withdrew his name from consideration.
I mean, veteran quarterback, if anybody knows what it takes to be a veteran QB, um, your camera and your mic went out for you, just as a heads up. But um, I don't know. I still think, I mean, I think the Bills can now interview with LaFleur from the Rams, which I think is a good choice. Um, I'm gonna keep any negative opinions to myself for now, as far as the Bills coaching go or coaching decisions go, until we see who else interviews. Like, do we know who they've interviewed? Like their Rooney Rule candidate has been yet?
Anthony Lynn.
Did they interview him?
Mhm.
Okay,
There were no, I'm trying to think. So they've interviewed Anthony Lynn, Lou Anarumo, Joe Brady, Brian Dable, Phil Rivers. They're interviewing Davis Webb,
the guy out of Jacksonville.
the guy out of Jacksonville. Yeah. So, but I don't think Anthony Lynn's gonna to get the job. Like it's gonna be Dable, right? Like it's gonna be Dable, and maybe like maybe they'll hire Davis Webb as well now that Denver's out. Because I think he's their
I feel,
quarterbacks coach, and him and Josh are,
yeah,
are tight. So that's honestly, if I were a betting man, I would say it's going to be Brian Dable.
I feel like Dable is the safest
Yeah.
option. Um, and I mean, it gives them that local flavor. It gives them an offensive guy, but I don't know yet. I mean, I would definitely take Dable over a defensive coach. You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
especially because I've been of the opinion, and I've said it on here multiple times, that I think Brian Dable got kind of a raw deal in New York with between the injuries and with management forcing them to keep Daniel Jones instead of Barkley. I think that there was a lot that he didn't have control over that ended up like in killing his career there.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're definitely not wrong. I mean, and we look back, I know, Bills fans always are going to find ways to criticize, right? But Josh put up spectacular numbers the two years that Dable was here. I
Yep,
mean, we look back on those seasons, like the COVID year, um, as like when this team was scoring 50 points a week, you know, and that was fun. Like that was like this team was never out of it. And yeah, they ended up losing to the Chiefs in a heartbreaker, but it was like this team was never out of it, and that was when that was 13 seconds too.
yeah,
And as we've come to find out, which a lot of interesting stuff has been said now that McDermott is gone, and for a while, I guess that McDermott and Josh did not have a good relationship, and only recently had McDermott and Josh actually had a good relationship. But like back then, McDermott was overruling people, specifically the 13 seconds game. There was a guy who is an insider in the NFL who called the radio station, or they called him, or something like that, with those two afternoon guys on GR. Um, and he made a point to say that like the 13 seconds game specifically, the special teams coordinator wanted to squib kick the ball, and McDermott overrode him. And then when the Chiefs
really,
got the ball, McDermott was the one who had them play soft prevent when the other coach wanted them to do, the defensive coordinator at the time, I think it was Frazier, wanted them to all out blitz or something like that. A completely different play call that would not have afforded the Chiefs all of that time to get somebody down the field as quick as they did when Kelsey made that like 25-yard catch or whatever, it was during that 13 seconds game. So like that 13 seconds game was squarely at the foot of McDermott. 100%. Because if you squib kick the ball there inbounds, and I know it's 6 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever it was. If you squib kick the ball in bounds there, they get it with like 8 seconds left, right? What's one play? That's one play,
yep,
which is a Hail Mary, you know, because they're on the 35-yard line or something like that, because there was no landing strip or landing zone or whatever the hell it's called, you know. So they get the ball maybe on like the 25 or 35-yard line. That's a Hail Mary at that point, right? I mean, so I don't know. I don't know, So McDermott should have been gone before that. But that being said, Josh, the point like I was going to make initially with all of this before I went on this tirade was Josh had his relationship with Dable, right? Like Josh had a great relationship with Dable, but Dable also didn't take shit from Josh as well, I
nope,
think, which is a good thing, I think, because like Josh doesn't need a buddy. He needs a coach.
exactly,
And
and that's a
yeah, go
problem.
ahead. Go ahead.
I think that's part of the problem is you had McDermott and Allen being all buddy buddy these last 2 or so years, and that doesn't help anything, especially with the terrible setup for like the chain of command there.
Mhm.
And with what you were just saying, that adds a whole new wrinkle to things like Leslie Frazier taking his leave of absence. I mean, that was the last time I think the Bills had a good defense was when Leslie Frazier was there. And if that's in fact the case, there's a lot more that McDermott did to hurt this team, I think, than people realized. And I
Oh,
know
for sure.
we're spending a lot of time talking about the Bills here, so we should probably get back to talking about the other teams. But my final point here is I'm going to try to stay positive as far as being here. And I'm going to hope that this is all part of the fact that McDermott got complacent here. He had hit his ceiling. And now that we're moving on, we can hopefully move on as a team and take it a new direction.
Yeah. Yeah, getting back to it though, I mean, and we'll spend just a few more seconds on the AFC before we go over to the NFC. I think had Jacksonville won the game instead of the Bills, I am of the mind I don't think they would have made as many mistakes as the Bills did in that Denver game. And I am convinced that they would probably be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl right now.
Well, had Jacksonville won, it would have been Jacksonville versus New England and Houston versus Denver.
Yeah.
And I think that Jacksonville would have beaten New England
Yeah, I do too.
because I think Jacksonville has too high power for the same reason that I think the Bills would have beaten New England. Even though the Bills have a bunch of nobodies on their as their receivers, they still have a strong enough offense that they can get past that.
Jacksonville's got a
And
good
then
defense.
yeah, they have a great combination of both of them. And I mean, it would have forced Drake May to have to do everything because Jacksonville had the number one run defense in the league. So
Mhm.
New England wouldn't have been running the ball. It literally would have forced him to throw, and I think it would have exposed his weaknesses.
Mhm.
And I think that Denver probably would have beaten Houston. Um, I especially with the way Stroud's been playing, I think that Denver's defense is good enough. They probably would have scored off of those turnovers and not even left it to the offense. But
Mhm.
I still think we would have. I think we would have probably gotten to a Denver Jacksonville AFC Championship game had that happened.
Yeah. So, yeah, so the AFC is what it is. The Patriots are there, going up against Seattle. Seattle, in the divisional round, dog walked the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, that was a blowout. What
Yeah.
was it? 31 to 6, 41 to 6. Like, I mean, absolute dog walking of that team. And the real Super Bowl was that NFC Championship game yesterday. I mean,
It really
that was
was.
that was incredible. What a great game. 31-27 the final. I mean, the Rams had the ball on the 6 yard line and Seattle's defense stood tall, fourth and
Yep.
two or something like that to close it out there. And yeah, there was a bullshit penalty that gave the Seahawks a first down like relatively late in that game. But I mean, the Rams had their opportunity to win, you know? And I
It.
look at that game and I hate to keep going back to the Bills, but how can you say after watching that game yesterday, because those two teams are the best one and two best teams in the league, right? Like
Yep.
I think it's universally accepted that the two teams that played last night, the Rams and the Seahawks, are one and two the best teams in the league. And how can you watch Puka Nacua and JSN and not think that wide receiver isn't important? Like, I mean, it
Yep.
was incredible, incredible to watch the two of them play.
So I think the NFC was the stronger division anyway, or stronger conference anyway this year, just overall. I mean, you compare it to most of what went on in the AFC, and I'm pretty sure that the NFC would just limb-based most AFC teams. The game though yesterday was just there wasn't really a point where even when the Rams were down by two scores where they really felt out of it. You know what I mean? It definitely helped that Seattle took that boneheaded taunting penalty that led directly to a Rams score. It made it closer than it looked for a little while, but it was I think I have to 100% agree with you. I think that game will probably end up being better than the actual Super Bowl is.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I think
I
that the NFL will make the Super Bowl close because there will be some bogus calls like there are all the time because they don't like these games to typically be blowouts, all except for that one time when Seattle blew out Denver, like I don't know, 8 years ago or something like that. But very
yeah,
rarely are Super Bowls blowouts. Although then again, last year was a blowout too. I mean, the Eagles blew out the Chiefs last year. But I don't see it. I mean, on paper, Seattle should blow them out. Seattle
they should
should
curb stop them.
blow Seattle should blow them out. But I have a hard time seeing that.
I'm real worried about if it's a close game, what kind of bullshittery the NFL is going to pull
Bullshittery.
that yep, I'm going to make up a word here. What kind of BS that the NFL is going to pull to help New England? Because it really feels like that's the kind of thing that they would do. You know what I mean? And I have no doubt that the uproar, if there's anything that's slightly questionable, and there's already been several things in this playoff that have not made the NFL look good. That Bill, the weekend that the Bills got eliminated, that catch not being a catch in the Bills game, but then being a catch the next day is just a prime example of the lack of consistency in the league. And I just that kind of thing doesn't need to happen at the Super Bowl. And I'm
Yeah.
real worried that it's going to.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. So I don't really have anything else. I was gonna just rant for a little bit longer about the Bills, but I think I'm good. So do you have
What's what's
any
your
other
hold on?
final thoughts?
What's your early 2 week out pick? Obviously, we're going to update this when we do our actual
Seattle.
prediction.
Seattle by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm going
Yeah.
to say I think it's going to be Seattle by 6.
I guess we'll have to wait and see. So, all right. So that is our show, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Where do you think this game is going to go, and how do you think it will turn out? We're very curious. We'll do a preview when we get a little bit closer as well. We'll get the whole gang on here and we'll talk about it. So, I've been Mike, joined by Mr. Sean O'Neill, and have yourselves a fantastic evening and take care.